Have you noticed that most people live on autopilot? Someone cuts you off in traffic, you explode. You get a sharp message, you fire back a response. You're constantly reacting without thinking. But what if I told you there's a magical space between what happens and your response? A space that separates ordinary people from extraordinary ones. In the next few minutes, I'm going to show you what happens when you finally stop reacting. But before we dive into the first principle, I need to warn you. When you master this, something strange happens. People around you start perceiving you differently. You gain a magnetic presence, almost supernatural. Because while everyone else is reacting, you're responding. And that changes absolutely everything. Think about it. How many times today have you already reacted without thinking? Your boss sent a cutting email and you felt that anger rising. Someone made a comment in the meeting and you wanted to snap back. Your partner said something and you exploded. The truth is, most people don't live, they just react. They're like pinballs being shot from one side to another, with no control over their own trajectory. And the worst part? They think this is normal, that this emotional roller coaster is just part of life. But it's not. When you live reacting, you hand over control of your life to everything and everyone around you. That grumpy person at work, they control your mood. That aggressive driver, they decide if you're going home stressed or calm. You've become a walking remote control and everyone has access to your buttons. The question is, do you realize the price of this? Relationships destroyed by words thrown in the heat of the moment. Opportunities lost because you couldn't control an impulse. Physical health deteriorated by the chronic stress of always being in fight or flight mode. But there's a different path. A way to live where you're not a slave to circumstances, where you consciously choose your responses, and it all starts when you discover the sacred space between what happens and how you act. Viktor Frankl survived Auschwitz and discovered something that would change psychology forever. He realized that even in the concentration camps where everything had been taken from him, there still remained one freedom no one could steal: the freedom to choose how to respond. Between what happened to him and his reaction, there was a space. A tiny gap, but infinitely powerful. And in that space lived his humanity, his dignity, his personal power. Most people never discover this space because it's too fast. Something happens, and boom, you've already reacted. It's as if there's no choice. But the truth is, there's always a choice. There's always that millisecond where you can decide. The difference between a reaction and a response is simple. Reaction is automatic, instinctive, unconscious. Response is deliberate, conscious, chosen. Think about Steve Jobs facing devastating criticism after being fired from his own company. He could have reacted with bitterness, revenge, giving up. But he chose to respond. He used that moment to create Pixar and Next, which eventually led him triumphantly back to Apple. Or Oprah Winfrey being constantly rejected and humiliated early in her career. Instead of reacting with resentment, she responded by building a media empire. The gap exists. It always has. The question is, are you going to start inhabiting it? Because when you do, when you pause before acting, you recover something precious that was lost. You recover control of your own life. Neuroscientist Jill Bolte-Taylor discovered something revolutionary. Any emotion, no matter how intense, has a chemical cycle of exactly 90 seconds. Let that sink in. Your most explosive anger, your most paralyzing fear, your most suffocating anxiety? 90 seconds. The problem isn't the initial emotion. The problem is you keep feeding it. You keep replaying the story in your head, ruminating, justifying, amplifying. And then those 90 seconds turn into 90 minutes, 90 hours, 90 days. Here's the technique. When something happens and you feel that emotional wave coming, don't fight it and don't dive into it. Just observe. Feel the physical sensation in your body. Does your chest tighten? Do your hands shake? Does your jaw clench? Name the sensations without judgment. Don't say, "This is terrible," or "I shouldn't be feeling this." Just acknowledge, "I'm feeling tension in my stomach. My breathing is accelerated." And then wait. 90 seconds. Count if you need to. I tested this when a client canceled a 6-month project out of nowhere. The first wave was devastating. Panic, anger, despair, all at once. But I knew the rule. I closed my eyes, felt everything without resisting, without feeding it, and it was surreal. In less than 2 minutes, the intensity had already dropped by half. In 5 minutes, I could think clearly about next steps. If I had reacted in that first minute, I would have sent a message that would have destroyed the professional relationship. The 90-second pause saved not just that contract, but opened doors to much bigger projects. There's a monumental difference between feeling anger and being anger, between having anxiety and being anxious. Most people completely merge with their emotions. They don't say, "I'm experiencing anger." They say, "I'm angry." Or worse, "I'm an angry person." It's as if the emotion were their identity, but it's not. You are the sky. Emotions are just clouds passing through, and when you learn to position yourself as an observer, everything changes. The noticing technique is simple but profound. When a strong emotion arises, you mentally take a step back and describe what's happening in third person. Instead of, "I'm furious at this idiot," you think, "Interesting. I'm noticing anger arising. I'm noticing aggressive thoughts appearing. I'm noticing the impulse to attack." It sounds silly, but this shift in perspective is magic. You create distance. You remember you're not the storm, you're the one observing the storm. Practice this, especially in arguments. When someone says something that triggers you, instead of counterattacking, observe internally. They said X, and now I'm noticing defensiveness rising, noticing the impulse to justify, noticing my heart racing. This simple act of observing already breaks the automatic pattern. You gain precious seconds, and in those seconds, you can choose an intelligent response instead of a destructive reaction. Observation doesn't eliminate the emotion, but it takes you out of the emotional passenger seat and puts you in the conscious pilot seat. Here's a truth nobody tells you. Your emotions aren't enemies. They're fuel. The anger you feel when you see injustice, that's pure energy waiting to be channeled into real change. The anxiety before an important presentation, it's your body giving you extra resources to perform at your best. The fear of failing, it's a GPS pointing exactly where you need to grow. The problem was never having intense emotions. The problem is being possessed by them. Emotional alchemy is the art of transmutation. You take the raw energy of emotion and consciously direct it toward something productive. Michael Jordan was cut from his high school basketball team. He could have quit. Instead, he used the humiliation as fuel to train obsessively. Every time he felt anger or inadequacy, he went to the court. The emotion didn't disappear. It was transformed into excellence. When you feel anger, ask, "Where can this energy be useful?" Maybe it's time to have that difficult conversation you've been avoiding. Maybe it's the moment to finally set boundaries. When you feel fear, ask, What is this fear protecting that's important to me, and how can I honor that courageously? When you feel frustration, ask, what is this frustration showing me about what I really want? The difference between ordinary and extraordinary people isn't that extraordinary people don't feel intense emotions. It's that they learn to ride those waves instead of drowning in them. They transformed internal storms into winds that propel their sails. Theory is beautiful, but without practice, you'll keep reacting. So, here's your 30-day protocol to reprogram your nervous system. Week 1. Choose one specific situation where you always react badly. It could be traffic, arguments with your partner, emails from your boss, just one. In that specific situation, your only job is to pause 3 seconds before responding. 3 seconds. Take a deep breath, count to 3, then act. It'll feel like an eternity at first, but you'll survive. Week 2. Add the 90-second rule. When something triggers you, feel the physical sensations without reacting for a full 90 seconds. Name what you're feeling. Observe without judging. Let the chemical wave pass. Week 3. Practice noticing in real time. Throughout the day, several times stop and ask, what am I feeling right now? Describe it in third person. Create the habit of being an observer of your own experience. Week 4. Emotional alchemy. Take a difficult emotion and consciously ask, how can I use this energy productively? If it's anger, maybe it's time for courage. If it's anxiety, maybe it's extra preparation. If it's sadness, maybe it's time for rest and reflection. Transform instead of repressing or exploding. And here's the secret nobody talks about. You're going to fail many times. You'll react, you'll explode, you'll regret it. And that's part of the process. Each failure is information. Each stumble shows you exactly where you need to strengthen. The difference is now you have a map. You know there's another way. And each time you choose to respond instead of react, you strengthen that muscle. Until one day you realize you're no longer that person who lived on autopilot. You've regained control of your own life. And that, my friend, is real freedom. Remember at the beginning when I talked about the magical space between what happens and your response? Now you know that space isn't magic, it's choice. It's you consciously deciding who you want to be in each moment. Starting today, you don't need to be a prisoner of your automatic reactions anymore. You have the tools, the sacred gap, the 90 seconds, observation, emotional alchemy. Now you just need to decide. Will you keep being controlled by circumstances, or will you finally take the reins of your life? The answer is in your hands, literally. So, take a deep breath, and next time something provokes you, remember, between stimulus and response there's a space, and in that space there's freedom. Use it well.